Hey guys, Deathscyp here from YCG, your casual gamer. Time to build our health system together. So the life bar over here is going to be on the left, and then in the middle I put a button so that we can test it out, and we're going to program all this together with our first person character, and we're going to add also a regen rate. And this is what it should look like at the end. You click in the middle and you take damage, and when you reach to 0 you are dead, and when you click again, no more life. So let's get to work. Alright, let's get started. So inside your empty folder, let's right click and create a user widget blueprint. Let's call it user interface. And double click. Or you could call it UI, it's up to you. Now inside your canvas panel over here, we're going to drag a widget progress bar inside our canvas panel. And I'm going to set up my life bar to go from bottom to top. You choose the way you like it. I prefer it this way. You can even choose the background image, the fill image. You can use the marquee, but the marquee I don't really like it. I'm going to post a link on how the marquee works if you're interested in finding out how it works, but I personally don't like it. Now, the percentage for your life bar, if you want to check out how it's being filled right now, is you're going to see that from now on it's from left to right, and that's not what I need for mine. I want it to be, you have all these options over here. You can go from left to right, right to left, fill from center, top to bottom, or bottom to top. I want to go bottom to top. Now you're going to see it adjusted right away to my setting, and it goes from bottom to top. But for a life bar, I'm going to use a red instead of a blue, maybe a bright red, like that. And now all that's left is to create a binding for percentage. To do so, we're going to go inside the graph and we're going to create a variable, and let's call it health percentage, and let's make it into a float since it's going to be a value between 0 and 1. And what I mean by this is when you go over here, it's always going to be between 0 and 1. It means that if, let's say, your character has 100 HP, you're going to have to make sure that the math behind is going to be adequate to it. So that means if I have 100 HP, to make sure I have a value between 0 and 1 is I'm going to have to divide it by 100. And so on, whatever your max HP is, you're going to have to divide it by this. Now to create the binding, just click over here and add your health percentage variable that we just created. And you're done inside the graph. Now let's jump out of there and let's go make our program inside the first person character. So we'll click inside the first person character. Now the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create a reference of the UI that we just created so that we can create a bridge of communication between the first person character and your progress bar. To do so, we're going to do an event begin play. Now, if you've been following the videos, you should have your VR stuff that is still present around your program. I already deleted everything because we don't need these inside my tutorial series. If you want to keep them, just put them aside. I'm going to start with a fresh event begin play, and we're going to create from there a widget, which is where we're going to go get our user interface that we just created. User interface that we have over here. And from here, to make our reference, we're going to drag out of the return value and promote this to a variable. Call it UI reference. And there you go. Next is we're going to need to add our user widget to the viewport. If you did my last video, you understand why we do this. And now we go, if we go inside the level right away, you're going to see our progress bar over here. But there's no color added to it yet because we didn't set a health system yet. We didn't set any value to this. So let's go ahead and create that. Now, to make my health system, I'm going to create a new function. I could, if I want to make it inside the event graph, but if you start building all your programs in here, it's going to become very crowded and it's going to be hard for you to come back to when you haven't worked on it in a long time. So to make it easier, I prefer to put it inside a function. The only reason I wouldn't put it inside a function is if you need to use the delay node. The delays you won't be able to put in delays inside a function. Keep that in mind. So health health update. Now we're going to need to create our variables for our health system. There's going to be 4 of them. The first one, being a boolean, is going to be called is dead question mark. So here's the character dead, and let's put it inside the right category, inside health system. Now we're going to make our 3 other variables. The first one is going to be they're all going to be floats because it's values between 0 and 100 and sometimes decimals. First one is going to be the max HP. The second one is going to be current HP. And the last one is going to be the one that I promise you is the regen rate. I'm going to show you how to apply to your health system. Let's put all these inside the health system. The UI reference is up to you. Since we're going to put more stuff inside the UI reference in the future videos, I'm going to keep it aside. But let's make sure that everything in the health system is editable, so that way if you need to access the information from another program, it's going to be doable. Now let's set our values. Is dead. He's not dead right away, so let's leave it to false. Max HP, we're going to put it to 100. Current HP, same thing, to 100. You start with full health, and the regen rate, I set it to 0.2. This is going to be a value you can play around with when you want to after that. So first question, so when we're going to be calling the function inside the event graph, you have to think of how many times do you want your program to be monitored. Is the health system something to be monitored constantly? Yes. As soon as your player gets hit or gets any kind of regenerate or health pickup, you want the action to happen instantly. And to do so, you need to keep an event tick, which is a constant monitoring event, because it fires every I think 0.003 millisecond. So it's really fast. So from the event tick, we're going to call function. So call our health updates function. Compile and save. So now every tick, the event update is going to activate. So what's the first question? Is the player dead? So from here, you're going to branch it. And over here. So if it's true, then it would be the game over screen if you have one. If not, we're going to have to check if he just died, because if he's already dead, then that's a game over. But if he's not dead yet, maybe he just died with the current HP that just dropped. So let's put that float is current HP minus 1. So that means is it lower than 1? And the reason I do this is because when you're playing with a regen rate, your values sometimes are going to be between numbers. So just to make sure that you're not between 0 and 1 and your character is still alive, but your life bar is clearly stating that your character is dead because you don't see any color there, I choose that as soon as you're under 1 HP, you are declared dead. So B and left click to make a branch, and from the false, connect these two together. Now, if it's true, your character dies. So print string, just to test it out first. And we're going to make you are dead. And it's going to print string just to test our program. And now we're going to set the is dead to true. There we go. Perfect. Now, if the character is not dead, that means that we need to do another question. And that's what it is when you're building a program with blueprints, is you're always asking questions, and that's how you build your program. So the next question would be, is your HP, your current HP, lower than the max HP? And I'll tell you exactly why we asked this question is because we have a regen rate that we just implemented. So that means that if you're not full health, you need to regen, and if you're not dead, then you need to regen. Now we're going to start with the false first because we're going to add our life bar update over here. So drag in the UI reference with control being held, and we're going to go set our health percentage. Now remember how we were supposed to set this up. So if your health are full, that's the false over here. So you're going to drag this inside here, and now the math is always going to be the same. It's going to be your current health divided by your max health. And that's the only reason I created the max health, is not to always have to put another number. I know that it's always going to be 100. So if I divided the two, it's going to give me my health percentage for my progress bar. And just right here, if I compile and save and leave the program, you're going to see that right now I have my health bar over here. So let's get back to our program. Now we need to add the regenerate, and then we're ready to test out if everything works. So if it's true that you have less than 100 HP, let's add a regenerate. So the regenerate is 0.2, and I'm going to add here the get world delta second. And I'm going to have a link that explains to you how does the world delta second works. It works with the global world dilation, which will have a link also to explain to you how it works. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's I want to keep my video short and sweet. But I'm gonna basically what it does is that if you have this function over here, and let's say I want to apply a slower motion to my scene, well then the regenerate is going to apply to that slower motion. Instead of me having to set manually a new regenerate, if I have this over here, right away it's going to apply to my regenerate, and same thing goes to if I want to apply a fast forward to my scene. That way you don't have to worry about, oh, did I set my regenerate lower since I was going to add a slow motion to my scene. It's going to be automatically. Now this value that I get from those two over here, I can then add them to, sorry, I'm going to put them here, and I'm going to control drag my current HP and add them to my current HP. And now to get the new value is I'm going to set the new value that I get from these two results to my current HP. And then the last thing that's needed is to drag it inside your update. So it's going to carry out all the mathematical over here. Then before it gets over here, it's going to divide the max HP with the current HP, and then you're going to update your HP bar. Now, last thing over here is you're going to have to drag this over here, because when you get the last 10 damage, you want them to update your HP bar as well. That way your HP is going to be set to 0. Now let's go ahead and compile and save everything. So we are done with our program. So let's go test it out. Now the best way to test it out is we're going to go back inside our user interface, and we're going to drag in a button. And let's make a quick button over here. Drag it to the middle. Let's put a text also in the middle. Maybe put it for 35 for the font. Maybe here we're going to call it tick damage. And we're going to make the button, I don't know, red. There we go. Bright red. That way you know that it's affiliated with damage. And anchor it to the middle of the screen, and we're done with this. Now we need to make an event. On event, click. Now the first thing we're going to notice is we're going to need a value from inside our main character. So how do we do that? We're going to need to cast. So we don't need the event tick over here, but on event construct, let's create a bridge between the main character and the UI like we did in the main character. And this time, instead of creating a widget, we're going to cast to first person character. From there, we're going to get player character and promote it to a variable. Call it my character. And there you go. Compile and save. And now we're going to be able to drag this inside to keep it clean. And first question is the player dead? Get is dead. So just to make a proper test node, we're going to make a branch over here. Now, if he's dead, we're going to add a print string that says no more HP. No more HP. Now, Control C, Control V over here. Now, if it's false, then we want to subtract. You get 10 DMG. So we're going to subtract 10 to the current HP. So you need to drag and get current HP, which is right here in the health system. And from there we're going to minus float by 10. Now we want sure that the value is between 0 and 100. So how do you do that? You need to clamp your value. So clamp float, 0 is the minimum, maximum is 100. And it's the same thing when you do the regen rate. I should probably add this to the regen rate, but I think it's going to work this way, since as soon as your program recognizes that you're over 100, it's going to stop updating. So it should be fine. But if you want to make sure, you could add over here a clamp. Over here you could just add a clamp float to maximum being 100. That way it's going to stop when it reaches 100. So that's what I'm going to do with the def, just to make sure that at 0 it stops. And now I'm going to update. So over here I'm going to drag the set current HP to the value you just got over here. And now your program should be working fine. So let's jump out of there. And oh, sorry, I forgot to add one more thing. We're going to need our cursor. So let's get player controller, just to be able to use the mouse when you're inside the game. And set show mouse cursor to true. And also let's remove the input so you can't walk around. Set input to mod to UI only. That's gonna allow that won't allow your character to move around while you're playing with your life system. Just to make sure we can only play with that for now. So let's jump inside our scene. Now you have your box over here that you can click on it, and whenever you click on it, you're gonna see you get 10 damage. Again, 10 damage. When you stop playing with it, you're going to notice that your life is slowly regenerating, which is your regen rate. And keep taking damage, and when you reach to 0, you are dead, and then it doesn't regen anymore, and it keeps saying you have no more HP, so therefore the life system works. So I hope you enjoyed this. And in the next video, I want to go over making a small trap blueprint with you guys, to make a more adequate damage intake for your player. And also it's going to be a nice relation to your health system that we just created together. So stay tuned and see you next time. Have a good night.